Alrighty. We going live? Hi everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. All right. Here we go. Hi everyone. Thanks for joining. Um, I I'm super excited to talk about what we're going to talk about because I've had people ask me in other videos when I talk about how to know if someone's like emotionally immature early on or an avoidant attacher early on. And the reason people get so taken in by people who are actually not looking for something serious and real is because that they love bomb you, and love bombing feels really good. And I always say, like, you don't have to chase some early feeling of love and compare your relationships to that, because a lot of times your early feelings of love weren't really love. They were infatuation, they were lust, they were a lot of times they happened when you were young and your feelings, your emotions aren't as modulated. So you get really like tunnel vision. It gets really consuming, and that can feel really good. And you can think, like, oh, that's what love feels like, but it's really not. And love evolves, and every love is different. And so just understanding that compatibility is not the same as that initial chemistry, and how you can really sort of tell the difference. And so people think it means that you don't have attraction early on, and that's not true. It's just that you're not basing the relationship off of only attraction. So let's get started. First of all, hi, I'm Caroline. Welcome, especially if you're new here. I'm a former white glove matchmaker turned certified NLP and life coach, and I specialize in helping daters navigate burnout, because burnout is what makes people want to give up, right? And the dating culture only contributes further to burnout. I think apps have their place, but I think that they deeply contribute to burnout. And I also think that as generations age in and out of kind of dating or intertwine in the dating world, and their different kind of beliefs and ways of moving about the world and ways of seeing the world and the things that have marked them, make it harder for people to communicate. And then when they have trouble communicating, they get burned out from trying, like they don't want to try anymore. So I'm here to make sure you don't give up on things you truly want, right? So, to learn how to manage the journey and apply a personalized blueprint to your approach to finding the love that you dream about. And after working one on one with hundreds of daters over the years between matchmaking and date coaching, I know that with the right tools, you can stay grounded, keep your goals in focus, and move through discouragement without spiraling into burnout and cynicism. So, at the core of my work is this belief that it's not about finding this soulmate, like some perfect person that just fixes all of the previous relationship difficulties or challenges you've ever had. It's about finding the right dynamic for who you truly authentically are, and what you want from life. So my job is to just help you build that life, starting with clarity, empowerment, and support. And I know the world feels heavy. I know I've been kind of mainlining true crime to kind of like separate from it. But and I understand that sometimes the idea of talking about dating or finding love feels really trivial and unimportant, and you just kind of want to opt out and prioritize other things for, where your values are and your mental health. And I totally support that. And I'm totally here for that. And I also think that by choosing to keep going and to care about building the one life that you have right now and a love that feels meaningful to you is also self care and can really help a lot of people. So it's okay to want joy, even in hard times, even when you know others are suffering, because it can be what helps you stay steady and grounded and supported to prioritize the things that you want to do to help make the world a better place. So, If you're ready to leave burnout behind and build something real, this is where we do it. Today we're going to talk about how chasing the spark can lead to disappointment and how real compatibility feels and how it's not what you might think. So drop a heart in the comments if you've ever mistaken that spark for compatibility long term, because it's probably happened to everyone who's dated. Yep, exactly. Exactly. Thank you. So, why do we chase the spark? Why? Well, chemistry can be really misleading. One of my favorite artists is Halsey, and they have this song in lyric that their mother had always taught them, which is, "It's funny how the warning signs can feel like butterflies," and this is a message that we don't hear enough of. I think that how often have you heard from friends or family, the media, movies, TV, whatever, entertainment, that love feels like butterflies and that's something you should be searching for? Or if you meet someone and you tell one of your friends, "Oh, I met someone and we went out on a date," and they said, "Did you feel it? Did you feel the butterflies?" Like, and when that's happened to you, you file it away as a sign of something that you should look for, right? Drop a butterfly in the comments if you've been there, if you've done that. I want to hear from you. Facebook people too. Um okay, so here's the deal. Our nervous systems crave familiarity even when it's harmful. That's why you repeat patterns and mistakes. So you took a path your body recognizes, but the last time you followed that path, did it work out? And if not, why would you take the path again? Like, imagine it's a literal hiking path, right? And you walked it before. And when you come to a fork in the road, you always go left and you end up in the wrong parking lot when you were trying to hike to the viewpoint. And the whole goal of the hike was getting to the top of the hill and getting that beautiful view from up there. So, why not take the path on the right, the one that could lead you to where the path on the left will not? Is it because the path on the left looks easier? It's more worn in. It looks like it'll be an easier hike. Why do you keep chasing a feeling that has never led you to the result that you want? So that spark could actually be your trauma talking, and it could be a warning sign that you have told yourself as that is a signal to go forward, when really it's a signal to turn around and go the other way. So I like to think about, so when you think about your nervous energy or anxiety around things, doesn't it feel pretty similar to that? Isn't it possible that your interpretation of those feelings needs an adjustment? They're so closely linked, right? Like excitement and anxiety, being nervous and being anxious and being excited. My daughter used to call it nervous sighted. It was something that she used to describe that feeling when she was nervous but excited, right? Nervous sighted. They're so closely linked, but you identified which was which, right? Which was nervous, anxiety, excitement based on the situation, but you could have identified them incorrectly, right? And it's totally normal to feel that intoxication of initial chemistry when you meet someone you find attractive, but you don't actually know them. So, how do you know that feeling is a signal to move forward and not a signal to back away? You don't know them, right? So, have you ever felt that spark that just ended in disaster or at least disappointment? So, what is real compatibility, right? So there are two main, but not the only two main ways people end up together or decide to date. And one person in a relationship could easily be applying one method and the other following a different method. So, one way is that you get to know each other, and as your knowledge and appreciation of each other grows, so does attraction, right? They literally grow more attractive physically in each other's eyes. That's where the phrase beauty is in the eye of the beholder comes from. So that's why your friend thinks her husband is like such a hunk and you think he's totally forgettable. You don't know him the way she does. So he's grown really handsome in her eyes and you just see his packaging, right? So the other main way is you meet someone you find physically attractive and then you learn to love or really hate but put up with because of how they look, who they truly are. And I don't want to generalize, but it's super common for men to choose partners this way. They look for the packaging and then they just accept or struggle with what is being packaged. So you see the pitfalls of the second example, right? Like this is spark based decision making. It's not based on anything that really lasts. It looks fade. Even the most attractive person can become ugly when their actions and choices are horrible, right? I mean, how many people have had a crush on like a celebrity and then you found out something terrible about them and then now when you see them, they kind of make you sick, right? And you feel disgusted by them and they, instead of a smile, it's now a sneer or a smirk and you're like, ugh, I don't like that. It's because you found out something and they become less attractive. And in the same way, someone can become more attractive as you get to know them. Thank you. Um, True compatibility is alignment on your values, your lifestyle, your communication, your emotional capacity, among other things like religion, financial beliefs, your general outlook on life and the world and your place in it, right? And you can't tell any of these things by looking at someone. You can't. There's no way to know these things by looking at someone. These are things you can only learn by spending time getting to know someone and truly knowing someone takes a super long time and a lot of intention. So, how are you supposed to know early enough in the dating process that you want to keep investing in getting to know someone? It's a totally fair question. Um, I'm going to give you an example of Jillian. Jillian was one of my former clients. So she was 34 when we started working together. She'd been out of a 4-year relationship for almost 2 years. And she felt ready to date again, and she'd been on a few and reported they didn't progress because there was no spark of interest. And I asked her to describe the spark she's looking for, and she said, like a magnetic draw to them, like I can't help it. And I asked her if feeling helpless is like against an invisible force is something she's felt before. And she said yes with her last relationship. And she says that means it's fate. So I asked her if feeling helpless in who she is involved with is something she wants and why it would align with the life that she's already built. She had a successful career, she had wonderful friends and community, all these things she had built into her life with intention and with clear action and choice every step of the way, right? All these things were objectively good in her life, and she did them under her control. And so that kind of shifted things in her mind. So rather than following some amorphous feeling that felt outside of her control, and that didn't have any reflection on the rest of her life, right? Why would something that was so important be only a value when it feels like it's not in her control, when all these other things in her life that she values so much were fully under her control, right? um the parts of her life that were working and aligned with her values and goals were intentional. So why wouldn't getting to know someone and choosing to get to know them more feel the same way? And I could tell you so many stories of clients, people who are successful or at least satisfied with some area of their life, like not applying the approach and skills they applied to that area to their dating approach. And so they just end up missing the mark. And this is another thing, I don't know why something so important as finding a partner is something you're supposed to just intrinsically know how to do. There are no real classes for it. There's no way to actually learn about it. There's just people giving you passing bits of information of things that worked for them. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you, right? And having the right person by your side can change every aspect of your life, the same way finding having the wrong person by your side can really harm every aspect of your life. So it's not something to approach differently than you approached anything else you're successful at. If you had a successful career and you went to school for it or got certifications for it and you're always trying to level up, there is no reason why this super important thing isn't approached the same way. If you're really good at a sport, you practice, you learn, you get mentors, you get coaches, you get help. There is no reason why this thing that is so important for your life is not approached the same way. I totally understand why those early infatuation feelings are really seductive and addictive and exciting, but it is not love. It is not love. It is not compatibility. It's anxiety of the unknown that you have told yourself is a good thing, right? It doesn't mean real compatibility doesn't start with a spark or physical chemistry, but remember, you want love to grow and not just flame out, right? You want an everlasting candle and not fireworks that burn bright but then burn out and hit the ground hard. Just remember that, you know, you want the fire to grow, not die. So calm and secure is not boring. It's clarity. It's the safety you found with someone who is in it with you and as committed as you are. Excitement without safety is just adrenaline. It's not really exciting. It's just a chemical reaction. And it's not an indicator that the two of you actually belong together. So there are some signs that you are prioritizing chemistry over compatibility. So I'm just going to go through a list, okay? So one is that you mistake anxiety for butterflies. And if you feel butterflies, think carefully. If this feeling happened when you were walking alone down a dark alley and you saw a mysterious shadow, would you think it's a good feeling? That it indicates something you should move towards instead of away from? Um, if you ignore red flags because you feel such a strong attraction, right? If you feel yourself constantly, you find yourself making excuses for them or turning a blind eye to things the person you're dating chooses to do or say because you feel physically attracted to them, you are prioritizing chemistry, and I promise you it has a time limit on it. And if you're not sure if you're doing this, ask your friends because they will know if you're spending a bunch of time. Um, if you're spending a bunch of time making excuses, you're like, "Oh, he's just like that. She just does this, blah blah blah." They'll tell you. Just ask, right? If you truly want to move forward, you're going to have to take some hard feedback sometimes from people who really know you. If you confuse intensity with intimacy, that's what happens with love bombers, right? If you fall for love bombers and you prize words over actions, even when they are consistently incongruent, right? They don't line up. You are chasing excitement that will never last. No one can keep that up forever. No one can. If you feel like you're performing rather than connecting, right? If you feel like you have to fit a mold or a model in order to keep the connection alive, you aren't being genuine. You you if you feel like you can't be your authentic self with someone, it isn't real. Either figure out if your belief is that you have to perform is really based on the other person, or if you yourself just believe that and they're not really seeming to ask for that, right? And then you can either work to fix it, or if you think it's something that they really need from you, then you need to move on and look for someone who wants to be with the real you, who you really are. So, a good thing to do is ask yourself, what patterns do I recognize in myself? What feels familiar, even if it hasn't worked out in the past? So let's talk now about how we're going to rewire our approach, okay? So, real compatibility is so much deeper than your initial impression of a person or your body's reaction to them. It should feel comfortable, but still exciting because you are excited to know them more, right? You're excited to know them more. Um, and not just excited to feel a certain way around them more. Does that make sense? Those are two different things, right? Whether you're chasing a feeling you get when you're around them, or you're chasing, or you're interested in the excitement of getting to know this new person who so far has shown you things that you find interesting and intriguing, right? So when you base a decision off initial chemistry and spark, you're just inferring things. You're inferring a lot because you don't know them. You don't know anything beyond what the surface is and what they choose to share. And you don't know their motivations for why they're choosing to share certain things. So it could be just to get you to like them and not really share who they are. Some people honestly don't know who they are. I'm going to say most people honestly don't know who they are, right? Um, that's why we do, that's why I have all my clients do an exercise to help define that, right? How they're coming across versus how they think they're coming across. And they always learn from it, even if it's uncomfortable. But a lot of people don't even know who they are. So how could they possibly really be sharing that with you in like an initial meeting, right? So that's why it takes so long to get to know someone. Some people only know who they are when they're reflecting somebody else, right? They only know who they are in relation to somebody else and not just who they are when nobody's watching. Um, I it doesn't mean that you should assume the worst when you meet someone or not believe them, but you need to watch for actions to align with words. That's how trust is built. You're looking for the stories and the things they share to paint a consistent story of how they see the world and their role in it, because that is how you look for real compatibility. So let's do a little grounding exercise. Um, and this is about how to pause and notice your body's reaction and response before you assume its reaction. So if you're feeling like you're going through this, you need to slow down and you need to say, ask yourself, does this person actually align with who I am, right? If I make a list of what is important to me, can I easily check off where they align with me? And ask yourself, can I be myself around them? When I imagine a future with them, do I imagine my true self or some idealized version of myself? I've talked a lot about how I used to carry around this idealized version of myself that actually wasn't me at all. Um, if it's the latter, it's a good sign you don't feel like you can be yourself around them. And do I feel safe, seen, and steady? Does this feel like a comfortable spot I am happy to revisit anytime? So keep those things, save this, write them down, keep that so that the next time you meet someone and you feel a lot of chemistry, ask yourself those questions and do a real check in with your body, and then honor your body, honor what your body's telling you, okay? Because the truth is deeper than the surface, and in the end, what you want is somebody you can build a whole life with. And the only way you know that is if you actually get to know who they are and then figure out if that's aligned with you. So, if this session helped you get more clarity on it, if you've been feeling chemistry and mistaking it for true compatibility, here's what you do next. Just subscribe to the newsletter. It comes out tomorrow. It's always the first place I'm going to announce any free guides, videos, appearances, discounts, anything else I'm working on or thinking about. Um, Book a free, totally low pressure session. We can review your current patterns and goals. You'll also receive my conversation starters guide if you do that. So you can skip small talk and build real connections from the beginning and not just rely on the same, hey, how are you? How was your day? Blah, blah, blah. That doesn't actually share anything. It'll help you really stand out and learn more. Um, so the links for all of that on TikTok is in my bio. On Facebook, I'll put it in the comments. Um, yeah, thank you so, so much for being here. Um, this is hard work to do. It can be hard work to do, but it's always valuable. It's always worth it. And if you're ready to leave that roller coaster behind of like deep attraction and then, high intensity and then falling, falling down after it all falls apart, and find lasting love someone with someone who's truly compatible for you, um, just reach out and book the session. We seriously just talk. It's really not a big deal. I love doing it. I love being present for you for that session and giving you whatever I can in that period of time. Okay. Um, and remember, the right person is not going to make you guess, they'll just make you feel grounded. Okay? Thanks. I'll see you next time.